Right, let's just jump straight into this. When you hear the word psychopath, I bet your mind instantly jumps to the Hollywood myth, right? You know, the shadowy serial killer or maybe some dramatic, over-the-top con artist. We are completely conditioned to look for these obvious monsters lurking in the dark. But today, as we dive into the source material for this explainer, we are going to totally dismantle that myth together. We're looking at a threat that is far more common, way more insidious, and honestly, standing right in front of you in broad daylight.
So I really want you to ask yourself, do you honestly think psychopathic traits only exist in the shadows? Because if you do, you are leaving yourself incredibly vulnerable. I mean, these individuals aren't hiding out in dark alleys. They're polished, they're getting promoted, they're being applauded. They are literally the people we sit next to in morning meetings, the people we date, the people we just assume are perfectly safe because, well, they seem perfectly normal.
And get this, the sheer scale of this reality is absolutely staggering. Neuroscientists and researchers now estimate that up to 1 in 25 people share these exact traits. 1 in 25. Just take a second to look around your office or think about your extended family, your social circle. The people who actually possess these characteristics are very often the most successful, charismatic individuals you know. And you know the terrifying part? You usually don't realize what they are until they've already taken your trust.
Okay, so to understand what we're actually dealing with here, we really need to define it. We're talking about something called subclinical psychopathy. When you look at the research from experts like Dr. Robert Hare and Dr. Kevin Dutton, you quickly realize that psychopathy actually exists on a spectrum. We're talking about individuals who have just enough of these psychopathic characteristics to manipulate, exploit, and harm you, but they don't quite cross that threshold for a full-blown clinical diagnosis. They maintain this absolutely flawless, normal social facade. Basically, they are camouflage experts.
The illusion of connection. Let's unmask traits 1 and 2.
So the very first trait is selective empathy. Now, for psychologically healthy people, normal empathy is just automatic. When you see someone hurting, you feel it, right? Even when it's super inconvenient. But subclinical psychopaths, they possess selective empathy. They strategically activate and deactivate it based purely on their own personal goals. Like, they can be incredibly comforting to a coworker if it makes them look like a superstar to the boss, but then they are utterly, coldly callous to that exact same person behind closed doors when there was nothing left to gain. It's like they suddenly forget your name the moment you're no longer useful to them. And the science actually backs this up completely. Dr. James Fallon over at UC Irvine did these fascinating brain imaging studies that prove this isn't just some quirky behavioral thing, it's a fundamental neurological difference. They literally turn empathy on for a specific purpose and then just suppress it the absolute second it interferes with what they want. They can show this intense, highly convincing care when it benefits them and then just pivot to absolute chilling indifference. Which brings us right to trait 2, strategic charm. Much like empathy, charm isn't a personality trait for them. It's a weapon. Think about it. Genuine warmth is consistent. If you're a warm person, you're warm to the CEO and you're warm to the barista making your coffee. But for the subclinical psychopath, charisma is just an instrumental tool. It's totally calculated, it's deployed for very specific outcomes, like nailing a job interview, pursuing a romantic interest, or winning a high-stakes negotiation. So the crucial point here, and this is exactly what Dr. Robert Hare points out, is that these are highly convincing displays. But I'm going to give you an authenticity test. Watch what happens when the strategic value of an interaction suddenly drops to 0. Watch how unbelievably fast that dazzling charm just evaporates when they have to interact with a service worker, or really anyone who has absolutely nothing to offer them. Seriously, it's like a light switch just flicks off. 2. Moving on, calculated performance. Let's unmask traits 3 and 4. All right, trait 3 is emotional mimicry. Normally, an authentic experience is generated by an actual, real internal feeling. But these individuals, they rely entirely on emotional mimicry. They observe what response is expected in a room, whether that's joy, guilt, remorse, and they just perfectly replicate it based on learned social scripts. Basically, they are actors playing a role. They're producing a flawless performance of an emotion without ever actually feeling a single flutter of the underlying sensation. But here's the thing. Catching this? It is a huge detection challenge because their performance is just so sophisticated. Going back to Dr. Fallon's studies, he found that even while they're displaying perfect guilt or joy, their emotional brain centers show minimal activation. So how on earth do you spot it? Well, you have to watch for glitches in the matrix, look for emotional responses that are maybe just a fraction of a second delayed, or reactions that are honestly just a little too perfect for the situation. Or, my personal favorite, watch for the exact moment their face drops completely flat when they think nobody is watching.
And that lack of internal feeling directly drives trait 4, calculated risk-taking. Look, most of us are governed by moral intuition, right? We avoid doing bad things because ethical anxiety and guilt actually stop us in our tracks. Subclinical psychopaths, though, they pursue unethical actions with a highly unusual emotional detachment. They simply don't feel that moral distress that holds normal people back. And honestly, that is exactly why they often excel and climb the ranks so insanely quickly in highly competitive corporate environments. Oxford researcher Dr. Kevin Dutton sums this up perfectly. For them, risk is processed entirely through a cost-benefit analysis. I really want you to internalize this point. When they lie or manipulate or hurt you, it is never out of ignorance. Oh no, they know exactly what they are doing. They just did the math in their head, and they coldly calculated that the personal benefit to them was totally worth the damage it was going to cause to you. The mask of superiority. Time to unmask trait 5. And here is trait 5, grandiose self-perception. This one is wild because there is this massive structural disconnect between how they present themselves to the world and how they actually view themselves. Their public persona might be flawlessly humble, perfectly self-deprecating, super collaborative, but internally, they harbor this deeply grandiose belief in their own absolute superiority and special status. They truly, genuinely believe they are smarter, more attractive, and vastly more deserving than literally everyone else in the room. But keeping up that kind of mask takes a ton of energy, and eventually, it slips. And when does it slip? Usually, it's when they are suddenly forced to follow the rules that are meant for, quote-unquote, everyone else. Watch for their genuine, completely baffling surprise when they face normal consequences. Or watch for that quick flash of irritation or even rage when they are denied special, preferential treatment. That right there, that is the true self leaking through the cracks of the facade. Or protecting your reality. Let's look at some research-based defense strategies. Because these individuals are literal masters of reality distortion, you need tools. So here are 5 specific research-based defense strategies you can use right now to protect yourself. Number 1, boundary reinforcement. They are absolutely going to test your limits, so keep them strict and always enforce consequences. 2, emotional protection. Stop sharing your vulnerabilities with them. They will just use them as ammunition later. 3, documentation practice. Start writing everything down. You need a paper trail to combat their gaslighting and reality distortion. 4, professional consultation. If you find yourself deeply entangled with someone like this, please seek a mental health professional's guidance. And 5, strategic disengagement. If they show zero genuine motivation to change, and they rarely do, your absolute best move is reducing contact and completely cutting off your emotional investment. So as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with this one final, really vital thought. Look at the screen. Are you still assuming that everyone who functions well socially is psychologically safe to trust completely? Listen, understanding this dark spectrum isn't about making you paranoid, okay? It's about making you prepared. Recognizing these traits is the ultimate key to protecting your reality, your career, and your relationships. Thank you so much for joining me as we explored the research today. Stay sharp out there, and I'll catch you on the next one.